The studio lights burned hot overhead, casting a harsh glow across the polished set of primetime Spotlight, a flagship program on one of America's biggest networks. The air hummed with electricity, not just from the buzzing equipment, but from the anticipation rippling through the packed audience. It was March 5th, 2025, a crisp spring evening in New York City, and millions of viewers were tuned in nationwide. The towering skyline glimmered through the floor-to-ceiling windows behind the stage, a backdrop of steel and glass that framed the drama about to unfold. The faint scent of coffee lingered from the crew's last break, mingling with the sharp tang of hairspray and the nervous sweat of the production team. Tonight wasn't just another broadcast, it was a showdown. Jessica Carter, the show's host, adjusted her sleek blazer and flashed her trademark smile, a practiced curve of the lips that never quite reached her hazel eyes. At 38, Jessica had clawed her way up from local news to national stardom, building a reputation as the queen of gotcha journalism. Her shoulder-length auburn hair framed a face that was equal parts sharp and alluring, a weapon she wielded as deftly as her biting questions. She thrived on dismantling conservative guests, her liberal leanings no secret to her devoted audience. Tonight, she had her sights set on Donald Trump, the former president, real estate mogul, and perennial lightning rod. Her team had spent weeks crafting a verbal minefield, a series of questions designed to trip him up, humiliate him, and, most importantly, attack his carefully curated image as a family man. Jessica was certain she'd walk away victorious, her career soaring to new heights. She had no idea she was about to step into the biggest mistake of her life. Across from her, Donald Trump sat in a plush leather chair, his posture relaxed but his eyes alert. At 78, his hair was still that unmistakable golden hue, his suit impeccably tailored, exuding the confidence of a man who'd faced down tougher opponents than Jessica Carter. The audience murmured as the countdown began, 3, 2, 1, and the cameras rolled. What happened next wouldn't just shatter Jessica's career, it would become a defining moment, a testament to standing up for family values in the face of a media machine hungry for scandal. Jessica leaned forward, her smile widening as she launched her first salvo. "Mr. Trump, you've built an empire, become president, influenced millions. Would you say you're just lucky?" Her tone was light, almost playful, but the glint in her eyes betrayed her intent. It was a softball question meant to lull him into complacency before she twisted the knife. Trump tilted his head, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. "You know, Jessica, it's interesting you'd ask that," he began, his voice steady and measured, cutting through the studio's hum like a blade. Liberals love that word, lucky. They toss it around to downplay success, to pretend hard work and sacrifice don't matter. But let me tell you something about luck. It doesn't build skyscrapers, it doesn't create thousands of jobs, and it sure as hell doesn't make America great. A ripple of approval passed through the audience, a few claps breaking the tension. Jessica's smile tightened, just a fraction. This wasn't the defensive stumble she'd expected. She'd pictured him flustered, deflecting, maybe even snapping, but he was calm, in control. She pressed on, determined to regain the upper hand. "So you're saying everything you've achieved is purely through hard work?" "I'm saying success comes to those who earn it," Trump replied, his voice gaining a quiet intensity. "Yes, I've been blessed, don't get me wrong, but I've worked harder than most people can imagine. Sleepless nights, impossible deals, challenges that would have crushed lesser men. But here's the real key. I've never done it alone." Her eyebrows arched slightly, a predator sensing an opening. "Not alone?" she asked, her voice dripping with feigned curiosity. "Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the people behind Donald Trump." She leaned back, crossing her legs, confident she'd steered him into her trap. Trump nodded, unfazed. "Of course, when you say the people behind me, you're probably thinking of my business partners, my advisors, smart folks, the best. But let me tell you who really deserves the credit, my family, especially Melania." Jessica's expression shifted, a flicker of triumph she couldn't quite hide. She thought she'd found her angle. "Ah, yes, Melania," she said, her tone smooth as silk. "You know, a lot of people wonder about her role in all this. Some say she's pretty quiet for the wife of such a powerful man." The air in the studio thickened, a palpable tension settling over the room. Trump's eyes narrowed just enough to signal he'd clocked her move. Quiet? No, dignified, he corrected, his voice firm but calm. There's a big difference, though I get why some in the media might miss that. Dignity is not exactly your strong suit. A nervous chuckle rippled through the audience. Jessica shifted in her seat, her smile faltering for a split second. She hadn't expected pushback this sharp, this fast. But she doubled down, her voice taking on a mock, concerned edge. Well, what I mean is, we don't hear from her much, unlike other political wives who are out there visible. Don't you think the public deserves to know more about the woman behind Donald Trump? The public, Trump shot back, his tone laced with pride and a hint of steel, knows exactly what they need to about Melania. She's brilliant, accomplished, and she picks her moments with care, unlike some who feel the need to yap just to fill the silence. The audience murmured in approval, a few nods visible in the front row. Jessica's smile wavered, but she wasn't ready to retreat. She leaned in, her tone sharpening. Let's talk about those accomplishments then, because some people say, well, they wonder if her biggest achievement isn't just being Mrs. Donald Trump. The temperature in the room seemed to plummet. Trump's jaw tightened, his expression hardening into something unreadable. The cameramen exchanged quick glances, sensing the shift. What came next would echo across television history. Let me be crystal clear, Trump said, leaning forward, his voice low and deliberate. Since you want to talk achievements, let's deal in facts. Melania speaks 5 languages fluently. 5. She's built her own career, stood tall on her own merits. She's represented this country with more grace and dignity than any first lady in recent memory. But you wouldn't know that, would you? The mainstream media is too busy spinning their narratives to notice. Jessica, sensing she'd lost the reins, tried a new tack. Of course, Mr. Trump, but don't you think being married to you has opened certain doors for her? Trump chuckled, a short, humorless sound. That's a funny question. It shows exactly what's wrong with how some folks think. Success isn't about doors being opened. It's about what you do once you're inside. And Melania, she doesn't just walk through doors, she transforms every room she enters. The audience broke into applause, spontaneous and loud. Jessica's face flushed, her carefully constructed narrative crumbling. But she pressed on, desperation creeping into her voice. Surely you'd admit your position, your wealth, your influence, it all shapes how people see her. You mean how you see her, Trump countered, his response swift and cutting. Because let me tell you something about influence and wealth. They don't create character, they reveal it. And what Melania's shown through every challenge, every attack, every cheap shot from people like you is exactly why I'm proud she's by my side. Her smile was gone now, replaced by a thin-lipped grimace. But Jessica wasn't done. She was about to make her fatal misstep. Well, since you mentioned by your side, she said, her tone growing bolder. Let's talk about that. Your lifestyle, Mr. Trump, the spotlight, the pressure, the scrutiny. Don't you think it's tough for someone who didn't ask for this kind of attention? You know what's really tough? Trump replied, his voice carrying a controlled edge. Watching the media twist everything to fit their story. Melania didn't just adapt to this life, she's thrived in it, despite constant attacks from people who claim to care about women's empowerment. Jessica leaned forward, sensing what she thought was a crack. But the pressure must be huge. The travel, the appearances, the expectations. Some might call it a golden cage. A golden cage? Trump's eyebrows shot up, his tone a mix of amusement and disbelief. Interesting choice of words. Tell me, Jessica, why is it that strong, independent women get celebrated by the media unless they're conservative? Then suddenly they're trapped or caged. The audience murmured in agreement, a few hands clapping. Jessica's composure cracked, but she tried to recover. I'm just suggesting that maybe this isn't the life she pictured, always in your shadow. My shadow? Trump cut in, his voice sharp with indignation. You're mixing up shadows with spotlights. Melania doesn't walk in anyone's shadow. She shines on her own. But you wouldn't get that, would you? Your kind of journalism isn't about truth. It's about inventing shadows where there aren't any. The studio fell silent, the producer's voice crackling urgently in Jessica's earpiece. She'd committed to this path and there was no turning back. Her next question would stun the room. Mr. Trump, she said, dropping all pretense, let's be real. You're a powerful, wealthy man. You could have any woman you want. Yet you stay with someone who's Well, age is alongside yours. Don't you ever think about trading up? The silence was deafening. Audience members gasped audibly. Trump sat still, his face a mask of calm fury. Trading up? He repeated, his voice deadly quiet. Let me tell you something about value, since that's all you seem to understand. In business, sure, you might trade up for a better deal, a shinier toy, but we're not talking about real estate or cars. We're talking about my wife, my partner, the mother of my son. He leaned forward, eyes locked on hers. Real value is someone who's there when the cameras shut off. Someone who tells you the truth when everyone else is kissing your ass. Real value is loyalty, integrity, character, stuff they clearly don't teach in journalism school anymore. Jessica paled, her mouth opening to respond, but Trump wasn't done. You know what's fascinating? You sit there asking if I'd trade up, showing exactly why your ratings are tanking. You don't get real value, real relationships, or real respect. The audience erupted, applause mixing with cheers. Jessica stammered, I didn't mean to suggest. Oh, you meant it, Trump interrupted, his voice rising. And that's the problem with your media circus. You say these things, make these digs, then backpedal when someone calls you out. Let me finish this for you. Melania and I have built something most people only dream of, a true partnership. Not the garbage you peddle in your gossip rags, not the kind you try to tear down with your little traps. We've faced hell together, celebrated wins together, built a life together. He paused, letting the weight settle. The studio was hushed, every eye on him. And you suggest I'd trade up? That's not just an insult to Melania. It's an insult to every woman watching, every person who believes in real relationships. The producer signaled frantically for a break, but Trump pressed on. You want to know why I stay with Melania? Because she's irreplaceable. Not just her beauty, inside and out, but her strength, her grace, her smarts, her heart. Those aren't things you trade, those are things you treasure. Tears glistened in a few audience members' eyes. Trump's voice grew commanding. And here's something else. Your question shows everything wrong with how the media sees relationships. You think everything's disposable, marriages, commitments, values, all just fodder for your sensationalist mill. You invite people on, pretending it's a real talk, but you're chasing drama, a viral clip. Well, congrats, you're getting one. Jessica's face was ashen, her note cards trembling in her hands. Mr. Trump, I think you're misinterpreting. No, I'm interpreting just fine, he cut in. And here's what America's thinking right now. They're picturing their own marriages, the years they've put in, the love they've built, and they're sickened by your idea that it's all trash for a younger model. The audience roared, some standing. Trump raised a hand, silencing them. What makes America great isn't just our wins, it's our values, family, loyalty, commitment. Real relationships aren't about what's easy or flashy. They're about standing together through thick and thin. So no, I've never thought about trading up. There's no upgrade from Melania, no one better than the woman who's been my rock. Jessica scrambled to regain control, but it was gone. We're just trying to have an honest. Honest? Trump laughed, short and sharp. You came here to embarrass me, to paint my marriage as some shallow deal. Instead, you've shown why people don't trust your ilk anymore. Look around, everyone here sees through your game. The producer finally cut to commercial, but the damage was done. Within hours, the interview would dominate social media, clips racking up millions of views. Trump's defense of Melania and family values would resonate far beyond the studio, while Jessica's career took a hit she'd never recover from, a lesson in underestimating your opponent.